So what is it that the grief recovery method can offer grievers? Well, I mentioned the emotional energy that is built up within us when we suffer a loss. The grief recovery method uses that energy the right way, because that energy has to get used somehow. The grief recovery method gives you the tools to use that energy in the correct way, and not to be a storage vessel for your grief, but to be a processing plant for it. So the grief recovery method has been helping grievers for 40 years. Millions of people have been positively impacted by the method, changed all sorts of grief. People's lives have massively changed as a result of the grief recovery method. It's currently being practiced in 40 countries around the world. I'm a grief recovery method specialist, and there are people like me all over the world bringing grief recovery to their communities all over the world. So I was on a training course, and the guys were all online, so they're all over the world. And I was thinking, amazing, this girl in Hawaii is going to do the same as I'm going to do in Burntisland, Fife, little Burntisland in Fife. But it needs grief recovery as much as anywhere. It's evidence-based, so it's gone through a lot of rigorous inspections from the university, has come out evidence-based when the program is followed, so it's proven to work. So I offer a few ways of helping people. One of the ways is to help carers help children. So I'm not able to help children directly, but I'm able to help the carers of children to learn the language of loss for a child. So when a child suffers loss, it has the same impact as you. The energy is built up within them, and you have to know how to help that child deal with what they're feeling. So what this course does, it gives us parents, carers, the language to help understand the behaviours and the language of children going through loss, suffering, grief. And the amazing thing is that when a child learns these tools, they can then use them throughout life. And you and I, we never had that chance. But the children that get help through this course can help themselves for the rest of their lives, deal with loss, understand the impact loss can have on them, not being told to replace the loss or have a surrogate or whatever it might be. So it's estimated by the Child Bereavement Network that 78% of 11 to 16-year-olds are bereaved of a close relative or a friend. 78%. So 3/4 of all children are suffering devastating loss, suffering grief from loss. They also estimate that 127 children in the UK are bereaved of a parent every day. That's 127 cases of grief, devastating grief in children every day. The more people can learn how to help them, obviously, the better their chances of living a fulfilled and healthy life. As I said, we also offer the pet loss program, and the reason is that people who lose pets feel like, this isn't true, but they feel like their loss is not as valid as other bigger losses, and so they'd rather be in separate groups. So now that's not always the case. Some grievers realise when I'm sad I'm going to that group, don't matter who's in it. But some people say, no, I want a separate group, or I could see people separately one-on-one in a pet loss program, or any loss that they are suffering. The one-on-one with me is a 7-week course, so it's slightly shorter than the group course. And in a one-on-one, I become to the griever, I become a partner to help you to work through. So I'm more involved in the client. In a group, the groups were more often were taught the tools and were sent into groups of 3, so either online into a room. Don't you know much about that stuff? I think we all know more now than we thought we'd. So you get sent to a room, or physically sent to a room. We maybe 3 of you, and you work together in a threesome. So the specialist is there for questions, to answer questions, to help with anything they are stuck on, but it's more a facilitator than a partner in the therapy. So it allows the griever to use the energy that is generated through suffering loss in the correct way. So in the course, any course, they will learn, they'll reflect on the loss, be able to share and be listened to without judgment, analysing or correcting or fixing. So actively listen to the point where they know they've been heard. You ever talk to someone whose eyes are off to the side of your head, or where you just know they're not really listening? They're pretending to listen, they're doing their best to listen, they're not really listening. That's not active listening. Active listening is forgetting everything, yourself, and becoming an empty vessel for the talker, for the griever, so that you can hear what they say, and so that more importantly, they know that they have been heard. In grief recovery method, I really appreciate you guys having a hug. In the method, we wouldn't hug during the sharing or the course, but at the end of each session, we would definitely hug. If you're a hugger, then we'll hug. If you're not a hugger, we'll figure some other way of showing how much we care. But the interesting thing about touch and hugging is it actually stops emotion. And when you want someone to emote because it's good for them, then leave the touch until all that's gone. Leave the hugging till all that's gone. And it does sound a little bit cruel, doesn't it? But it really helps the griever to connect with what they're feeling and actually deepen. Because when you share, when you talk out loud, you talk with one mouth, but you listen to yourself with 2 ears. And there's a lot of therapy done in just that process, the process of talking. And in many ways, the grief recovery method is about giving a voice to what you feel. So in the grief recovery method, we look at, we ask the griever, we guide the griever in looking at their lost history. So we basically do a graph of all the losses that we can think of that we've ever experienced. So from my gotfish when I was 3, right up to recently my brother died 4 months ago, so right up to that and beyond. So then you end up with a graph with lots of losses on it. And then going through that process allows you to identify the loss that really has the biggest impact on you right now. And that would be the loss that you would then pull out of the graph and work on. So if it's a relationship, you would then do another graph just solely on that relationship. So if it's your dad, so I've done my dad, right? I met my dad when I was born. So my relationship with him starts there, and he died about 5 years ago. But my relationship with my dad carries on because I still have a relationship with him. I often do things, I think I wish Dad was here to see that. I often do that. So he's gone, but I still have that relationship with him. So I do my graph up to the date that I was in the room. And that would not just be things that didn't go so well between you, things that you need to say sorry for or to apologise for, things you need to forgive them for. Now, forgiveness is not condoning what they did. I see people that suffered horrible abuse, and we are not condoning abuse, but we are saying that you can say goodbye to the pain that abuse caused you so you can move forward. So we use 3 recovery components: apologising, forgiving, and then significant emotional statements. So there won't be something you want to say that it's not an apology, it's not a forgiveness, but you really want to say it. For example, your dad might have taken you skiing once a week and you loved it, and you just want to say thank you for doing that, and you'll give a voice to that. Now you won't speak to them, obviously, if they're bereaved, you can't, but you give a voice to it. It's an amazing experience. And at the end of every letter, which is the last thing you do, you say, I love you if you feel like you do, I miss you if you feel like you do. Then you say goodbye. And that saying goodbye at the end of the completion is such an important component of the letter, because you're saying goodbye to the pain it's caused you. You're not saying goodbye to them, because you might know them, you'll always remember them, but you're saying goodbye to the pain that was caused, that is within them. So I've gone on a little bit to my final section because I'm so excited. I've used the word completion quite a lot. What do I mean when I say completion? Grief is really undelivered communication. Someone you can no longer communicate with. Maybe you're divorced and your ex-spouse is not speaking to you and you can't talk to them, but there's still things you want to say. You hold the pain that you can get rid of through completion by saying things that you want to apologise for, things that you want to forgive them for. We're going to keep this in this room, right? I think I was abused in every area, physically, sexually, emotionally. So I have to do quite a lot of forgiving in my work, but I'm not condoning what they did to me. I am saying I'm not going to let that affect me moving forward. It's not fair on those that I know and the life that I now have to live that way. So I'm saying goodbye to those things. Completion. What do I mean? So we've been sitting in this room for about an hour and a half together. Is there anybody brave enough to say they've had a positive thought about another person in this room? Anybody has a positive thing to say about somebody else in this room?
Yes, I would say so.
Don't say it.
No.
So you've got something you could say to that person. Have you said it yet?
No.
Right, so if we'll go home tonight and that person, I don't know who it is, God forbid, dies overnight, who's left with that undelivered communication? Not the dead person, you. And that's what completion is all about. It's delivering communication that you have. It's giving undelivered communication, and it has such an amazing impact. So that's what completeness is, and that's what I wanted to finish with tonight, to help you, to inspire you really, to understand the amazing impact that the GRM can have on a griever. And as I said, it's not a one-off. The tools you learn, you can then use on any loss you suffer in the future, or any loss that you've reflected on in the past. So I hope that's helped you. I thank you for listening to me, and we're going to have a time question and answer now.
I have a question, and I'm quite happy mine's been recorded. So, you talked about coping earlier on, right? And I think for myself, realising how I've coped with hurt, like not being able to deal with it at the time, and then my coping is often very negative and very reactive. Is that really a sign of not dealing with grief in a correct way?
How do you feel in here?
I felt terrible.
That's the clue right there.
But not being able to I've shared, right, this is 40 years ago, dating relationship, she broke it off. And I started getting quite emotional, very emotional, and being quite possessive. But it got to the point where she said, I don't want to see you again, ever. At that point, because I had no one to talk to, I thought, I'm going to end my life. And I tried it. Fortunately, it didn't work. I got out. I got some help. But that was the kind of thing. That was my coping mechanism. I wanted to hurt her by doing what I was going to do. Is that kind of...
You suffered a devastating loss, and you responded in a totally normal and natural way, and you said 40 years ago, you still need to talk about that, because it's affecting you today. And that's the thing about loss, it doesn't go away unless you work on it. So you're still dealing with that grief. And I asked you how you felt, and you said terrible, great word to describe how you feel. I don't think you should continue feeling that way.
I don't know either.
I'd rather you didn't. And I'm so excited by the method that I believe you can get relief from that feeling. And you deserve that. We all deserve that. You've been given a life to live, not to be unhappy and feel terrible.
Yeah.
So it is, you did use the energy in the only way you knew how. But I hope that we're friends, so I hope that just this contact with the method can inspire you to work back on that loss. And it doesn't matter where the loss is. I cried when I talked about my goldfish. I've only done it once in my life, and that's when I realised I'm still grieving the loss of my goldfish, or whatever it was going on at the time, living in an abusive home, along with that loss. So there's a help bar.
Thanks, Ben.
It's a great question. It's a great question. And your short-term energy relieving behaviour is actually, although it doesn't sound very nice, I've heard a lot worse. Do you know what I mean? Things that, behaviours that have a really bad impact on someone's life, and trying to help them to see they don't need to live that way to deal with this pain is part of what I do. Thanks, Paul. Great question. Any other questions?
Does dealing with grief, what you said earlier, writing a letter, is that one of the most important things?
The most important thing is giving a voice to it. So reading the letter out. Now, you can't read a letter out that you haven't written. So yes, writing it is very important. So you have homework between every session, and the homework builds on each other. And the last homework is writing your completion letter. The last session is when you read aloud your completion letter. When you read it, if you one-on-one, you read it to me or whoever is your specialist. But if you're in a group, the group will be completely confidential, and you'll all be sharing your letter.
I see. And that could be quite hurtful to actually come up with the words to write down, and that could bring the feeling to the forefront more again.
But that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't want you to think, because the world is teaching you in your head that it's a bad thing. It's going to hurt you. It's not going to hurt you. It's going to help you. It's going to relieve you. It's going to take the cork out of the kettle.
Yes, I've got you. Yeah. So it helps relieve the built-up tension and anger that you might feel.
Tremendous.
Something that would happen.
And you're my friend. I know a lot of your lost history, So
Yeah.
there's a lot of grief.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm the type of person that does bottle things up and just try to look happy on the outside about my life. You know, everything's hunky-dory. But yeah, I do deal with it in certain ways that I probably shouldn't, you know. And that seems a vicious circle that you end up going around in.
It takes great courage to do the course, to do this method. But the more you put in, the more you'll get out. So doing it, I encourage everyone not to shortchange themselves, because it's only them that won't get the ultimate benefit. There's no judgment, there's no fixing, there's no criticism. We all, loss is a normal part of life, and grief is the normal reaction to it.
So you can grieve at losing a job you loved as well.
Any loss, any loss.
You know, you would have regrets.
I realise I haven't repeated the question, sorry.
What was that, sorry?
I meant to repeat your question. You can grieve any loss. So grief is a response to the loss of any kind.
How do you communicate it with, like, when it's not a person? Like, you know how you were saying you go back and have a conversation, like, what
You can do, I have a relationship with my illness. Every day talks to me, tells me you can't do that. That's gonna hurt, you can't do that, feel that way. So I have a relationship with my health. So I could easily do a graph on my health, and I will, that's definitely part of my goal. But what you find is an intangible loss, like health, or loss of trust, or loss of safety, are usually done around a relationship, or more than one relationship. So I would encourage anyone with an intangible loss to work on a relationship that impacts that loss. Because there's a tremendous amount of power in understanding what they did to you, what you need to apologise for, what you need to thank them for, in all that. I've had 2 intracranial operations, and they're extremely serious things. So you go straight into the ICU afterwards. And my first up, I thought I was dead. I didn't know I was awake, I was just lying there. And I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything, literally. I couldn't open my eyes. I was just sick, and I couldn't get it out. So a nurse used to go and scoop the sick. And I asked, now I need to do a relationship graph on her. I've never met her. I don't know who she is, but I need to say thank you to her for that. Now I was lying there the first or second night in the hospital bed. And as I said, I thought I was dead. But my hands were like this, and I felt someone hold my hand. And I couldn't open my eyes, I couldn't speak, I had no idea who it was. And then it was around an hour, and then they went, and I forgot that. Then my mum said, "Did you know that Dad came to see you on your second night?" And I just, no. And she said that he said he'd held my hand. Now I don't know if I responded at all or not, but just doing that with my relationship with my dad and thanking him for being there and doing that was such a powerful thing, and it's totally connected with the intangible loss of my health. So your loss of safety, or your loss of trust, or your loss of control. If you're a child being abused, then you have no control. You have no idea what it means to be controlled, in control of your own life. And we need control. You chose to go in this room, you controlled what you did. When a child has no control in infancy, it creates tremendous confusion in their minds. And so that loss of control is always around someone, the abuser, or the caregiver that did nothing to help you, even though you were being abused. So yes, you can do it, but I would always encourage to think that when we do a loss history graph, to look at those losses, who there is connected, what's going on, is there a theme, and very often that relationship is a great insight into the intangible loss. Now you end up at the end doing that intangible loss. You may end up not doing it. You think, well, I don't need to anymore because I've dealt with all the pain around it. That might be the case. It may not be the case, but that's what I would encourage for you. It's what we call intangible loss. It's a loss that you can't touch.
So focus on the ones that are related.
Yeah, your lost history graph, I'm making some assumptions here. So if you did a lost history graph, you would get a pattern, you would understand more clearly where this feeling comes from.
And what if the loss, like, you know, the relationship was both good and bad, like, how...
It's very important. Remember I said there were 3 recovery components. One, things you need to apologise for, things you need to forgive them for, and things you could just say thank you for. So when we do a relationship graph, I encourage everyone to have positive things. So we put the positive things above the line and the negative things below the line. If you've been abused, it's very easy just to fill up the bottom with all the negative stuff. No relationship is ever wholly negative or ever wholly positive. It's always a mixture. And being honest in your graph as you reflect on your losses is very important. So you might need to apologise with something you did. That's powerful, it's very powerful to do. But then you may need to ask, you may need to forgive them for something that they did. So graphs can be both positive and should be both positive and negative. All right, because that's the honest reflection of the relationship, however bad it is. Now, working with abused people, it's hard to pluck out something positive, but it's always good to do so.
What about her losing her house? Well, not losing it. She sold her house and bought another one. Regrets every day she did it. Well, how did she get over something like that?
Is that what you were saying about intangible?
That's an intangible loss, but the word to regret is the one that gives you the clue that you might have stuff to apologise for. Say it out loud with a listener, someone who's listening to you. And doing that, it gives you tremendous relief. You no longer have that regret. We all make mistakes, we all do things wrong, and you'll see it as a mistake, as something you might have done wrong, and you might need to just say, I'm really sorry for doing that, I apologise. You might need to apologise to yourself.
We've all made lots of mistakes.
And that's probably the most important thing about therapy now, decision therapy. This is what we call an action program. But whenever someone first goes to a counsellor, the first month, 2 months, however often they see them, it's all about building them up, helping them realise how good they actually are, because people get beaten down, mostly by themselves. And then when they hear someone like this say, well, that's awesome, what you just did there, you know, what did you say? It's really hard to understand, but it builds you up. So,
it's really interesting.
you and I have email.
Yeah.
So I'll just email you some more detailed stuff.
That'd be great. Yeah. So it's not counselling what you offer?
It's called.
Or is that a form of counselling?
Well, I suppose it's really an action. If active listening is called counselling, then yes, that's within it, because that's what I'll do. But it's an action program, so the homework is a very integral part of completion for you. So it's a 7 or 8 week investment in your own soul, in helping, in covering, in getting better. So the work you put in, like at school, I mean, if you were always like me at school, I don't care what exam was going, I would do any work for it. But if I wanted to pass my exam, I need to do the work. If you want to get the most out of the method, do the work. that whoever is your specialist will give you plenty of support as you do the work.
And how much does it cost?
Well, my normal sessions are £45 a session. So if I did an 8-week group, then it would be £45 per session per person. One-on-one would be £45 for the 7 sessions, which is 30 quid. I haven't thought of it. So yeah, that's just my normal, as a counsellor, that's my normal.
So private sessions 45.
Yeah.
People come to see the life clients now, that's why. And my rate is based on the rates of other counsellors in Burntisland.
Yeah. I wonder if your work would support that. No, it wouldn't be fair. Well, you're needing to do something.
Any other questions? Thank you.